The EFCC reopens Halliburton bribery case as senior Nigerian lawyer quizzed, and 5 other SANs also for probe. And the Nigerian Army hands over 12 top officers to EFCC for probe in the ongoing arms deal probe. And banks, ministry officials behind 23,000 ghost workers in the Federal Civil Service. A very good day to you and welcome to Standpoint. I am Dakpo Aruajoye. At a period when the nation is facing economic challenges with heavy fall in price of crude oil at the international market, it is surprising as revelations upon revelations keep exposing the manner the nation called Nigeria has been and is still being plundered. The Halliburton scandal, in which top Nigerians were bribed to the tune of $180 million to win contract to build the Nigerian liquefied natural gas plant, the NLNG, is again at the front burner. And the Minister of Finance, Kemi Adeosun, revealed during the week that 23,000 ghost workers are drawing monthly stipends from the Treasury. This scam, however, is being aided by some banks and ministry officials. And the highest court in the land has given reasons for the verdict in the Rivers State Governorship Election Tribunal. We shall be looking at these issues today. I sit back and we'll be back after this short break.
Social media have grown in numbers and importance, consuming parts of our day. Billions of us. Information exchange happens in a split second.
Precisely. And on Trends, we get to create an online community where we discuss topics trending across Africa, issues that affect you.
We also get you involved in conversation using our various social media platforms: Skype, Twitter, Facebook, Google+, and others.
Feel free to join the conversation by sending in your text or video comments to our social media platforms.
TVC News Nigeria. First, accurate, reliable.
And to look at these issues today, we have in the studio Gbolaba, a political analyst, and also Libros Oshoma, a legal practitioner. Gentlemen, you are welcome.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Okay, let me start with you, Bola. And the Halliburton case is going to be reviewed now. So what do you think? That's a good one coming. It's been like 5 years now since that happened. Is that not a good one?
It is ostensibly a good one, but it is also one of the major issues in our fight against corruption that is indicative or that shows how organically vacuous we are when it comes to fighting corruption. Most societies, there's no perfect society on the face of the earth. We must be very candid with ourselves at this juncture. Most societies put laws in place to sustain a systemic fight against corruption. And Halliburton offshore Nigeria and Halliburton onshore Nigeria is the best indication we have for the vacuity of law in our jurisdiction. Let me give you a typical example, a practical example relating to Halliburton. As we speak now, there are director level officers of Halliburton who are in jail in America. They are in jail in America because of a law that is called the FCPA, Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. Foreign Corrupt Practices Act is a statute that democratizes the fight against corruption in America. If you and I know about an American, though I'm a Nigerian, if I know about an American who conducts business in a corrupt manner in Nigeria, all I have to do is find my way to America, report to the authorities, and once that person is investigated and ultimately convicted, I get rewarded for my effort at bringing his corrupt practices to the authorities in America. Imagine in Nigeria if we were to have a law that simulates or replicates
Such.
the FCPA, the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, that if I, Bola Oba, because I live on a particular road, I just know that ostensibly what my next door neighbor, who claims to be just a director level officer in the civil service, is living far and above what a director earns in the civil service. If ultimately I intimate the authorities about him and is investigated and convicted, I get 10% of all the loot gotten back from him. In the case of Nigeria, I will tell you at this juncture, okay, yes, it's good that we are revisiting Ali Burton, but I see an EFCC, I see an ICPC, I see an SFU that is, as we speak now, utterly congested.
Directionless.
Utterly, in fact, my colleague is saying directionless, and I won't be too far away from that abrasive and very acerbic submission. So it's about time the leadership of this country find a way of organically putting up a systemic infrastructure that will help us articulate the right fight against corruption.
Okay, let me take you to Libros now. You said the EFCC, that's the agency that is meant to fight these corruption practices. It's utterly congested. You said it's directionless. And how do you think they are going to win this fight against corruption then?
I tell people basically that what we are doing with the fight against corruption is we're making it a Buhari fight and not a national fight. The fight against corruption should be a marathon and not a 100-meter dash. If you make it a 100-meter dash, you run it in 4 years and it ends. But if you make it a marathon, we run it for a lifetime.
So how do you make it a marathon?
Making it a marathon, Bola talked about institution, and I will key along that line also. You need to empower the institutions to immediately these offenses are committed. You really don't need to wait for somebody's body language. You really don't need to wait for a president that will believe in anti-corruption to come before you begin to fight them. And we should make public office first and foremost less attractive. And so when you have, and public office should be a position to serve. And so when you have all of that, our institutions, our security institutions should be, there should be a divorce between our security institutions and our political office holders, so that when you occupy a position of office, like the Inspector General of Police, for example, you really don't need to begin to report to the president or the commissioner of the police, as the case may be, summoned by the governor and all of that. Your office should be insulated from politics, and your tenure should be protected. So in the event that you're doing your job, you don't need to look at, one boss breathing over your shoulder because somebody up there is also breathing over his shoulder. Why you are similarly seeing all of this? These are the same agencies we had in the past administration. Why you're similarly seeing all of this now? Because you have a president who believes, look, I want to do it differently. In the event that you don't have a president who wants to do it differently, we'll go back to our old ways. But when you have the institutions firmly on ground and insulated from politics, what you're going to have is, you don't need, if the president likes, let him not believe in anti-corruption. The system will make him believe in it.
You're not sounding hopeful.
I like the word system more than institution. You know why I like the word system more? Libo, please, sorry about this. You know why I like the word system more? A system is made up of a number of factors or a number of phenomena. You have the institutional end of it, you have the human element end of it, you have the statute end of it. Like when I started responding to this question, I started by mentioning the FCPA in America, the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. You know what the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act has done in America is a institute that has helped to democratize the fight against corruption. Look, you may be my best friend, but if I know you've traveled to Nigeria to go and make illicit millions, and maybe you are up there as a multi-millionaire in dollars, I may just decide that, you know what, our friendship does
Well, because I was going to ask him if because the way you guys are sounding, you're not sounding hopeful. You're not sounding as if
we are sounding hopeful. What we are basically saying is now we have a president who believes in the fight.
No, I'm not saying the hope in the president.
No,
the hope in the system.
Wait. What we are basically saying is the people that will ensure that this system is in place are those who are talking to. The president, Mr. President, this is good.
Yes.
EFCC now seems to be working. You have a Nigerian police also that had been relegated to the background. It is a statutory responsibility primarily to look at these issues. And so you find that in the Nigerian situation, in the fight against corruption, in the everyday fight against corruption, not the one that we are fighting politicians, what is the role of the Nigerian police? What is the role of the civil defense? Because the essence, look, let me tell you, in every society, as sophisticated as America and the Europeans are, they also is their crime. Because people will sit down, look for ways to beat the system. But the system has to keep evolving himself to ensure that as you're thinking of ways to beat it, the system is also looking for ways to ensure that you are caught. That is why in America, the police chief will not have to look at the president's body language when they say somebody committed fraud in Nigeria. Immediately, there is an office that is statutorily responsible for that, and they swing it to action.
Okay, but
the EFCC, we don't have to remove Lamode and bring in Maku for it to function. Because when you have such a head, the system itself will purge him. Okay. And that is why in other climes you see former presidents being prosecuted, because already they have involved a structure that the human element, the legal element, and the institutional element, are in sync and working to ensure that, come what may, the anti-corruption fight is not a 100-meter dash, but is a marathon and becomes our everyday life. Because human beings naturally will want to look for ways to circumvent.
Talking about the system, really, the EFCC is on the other side. In my intro, we talked about the army now. The army will have to even, they have to free now. Let me use that one. They are top officers now to the EFCC for interrogation. That is another system. The army itself is a system. How can the army be held? Be found?
No, don't go there.
Okay, where should we go?
Don't go there.
Where should we go?
You see, there's nothing that precludes you as a Nigerian or a foreigner resident in Nigeria. If you commit a crime, there's no your membership of any institution does not preclude you from being investigated by the statutory investigative authorities, from the police to ICPC to the district. Indeed, there's a Supreme Court pronouncement that says that the officers of state, the president, the vice president, the governor and the deputy governor, the officers of state who enjoy constitutional immunity can indeed be investigated. They cannot be prosecuted, but they can be investigated even whilst in office. So what is spectacular? If your CEC can be investigated, the president.
I
think that should be a disciplined institution.
What we are basically saying is, yes, we are happy. The army, 7 generals had been released to go and be interrogated, to go and face interrogation with the EFCC. Take it down to our everyday life. Can the Nigerian police DPO in Alakuko extend an invitation to an army colonel to come and face an allegation of assaulting his tenants?
Can they? No.
That's what I'm telling you. Because
Which
now,
shows a major
Problem.
loophole
In the system.
in our
system.
administration of criminal justice system.
which is why, and you are driving on Ikorodu Road.
It shouldn't be a privilege that the general is submitting.
A corporal drives on BROT lane because he's in army uniform.
And he
you-
stopped and he's
then
slapping everybody.
And the last man who
Stops
cannot
him.
even stop him.
No, even
or
if
he
he
stops
dares
him
to, and
and
he's
he
slapping
harasses him. You know, basically what I am saying is, yes, fine. This is happening because, yes, the president is involved. You are investigating armed scandal. And so, it's being that, you know, Mr. President had given instruction. And so everybody seems to be kowtowing. So if you don't have this president, what happens? What we are saying now is good, fantastic. But let us see how we can strengthen these institutions that are statutorily empowered to do this without necessarily looking at anybody's face. And once you are invited to come answer to charges, do you know that I was in the UK and an army officer was arrested by the police for overspeeding.
Overspeeding.
Army officer. One time Minister of Defense in the UK when I was in the UK. Minister.
And then immediately he was charged to court. He said he just came back from his defense and the judge said it is not a defense.
Okay.
And so these are what we are basically saying. Now we have the opportunity. Let's not glamorize, oh yes, you know, because it's been done at the center. There is a way we can replicate
we are not trying to take the shine off the commitment of this president to fight corruption.
No,
we
that's not
indeed
what
want to celebrate the unique position we are in now. But you see,
let us use it to jumpstart.
Any visionary leader, any visionary set of people who know that there is a life beyond today would want to have a system that will transcend the existence of the good men of today and still keep the society, you know,
in the way they left it.
Respectable in the way that is it.
But the man Buhari, doesn't he have too many to chew now?
Because it does seem,
He's doing it
for
alone.
me, it does seem to me to be a revolutionary without
Soldiers.
a revolutionary without people who can help him articulate a system that will not only attend to his commitment now, but that will transcend what's best case scenario is 8 years stay in power. Best case scenario.
Yes.
Because the man is an elderly man. He probably may say he's not contesting 2019. So we will revert back to all this cowboy system that we used to have. My brother.
You know why, basically?
And
what we are saying is we have a unique and golden
opportunity
To just
to
drive
entrench
immediately.
Yes.
sanity.
Because liberals, you know why I said so? Because doesn't it sound worrisome to have even soldiers that should be of fine reputation found wanting in this arms deal? Arms that are meant for your soldiers to fight a
what's my
cause.
brother's name again?
Is it not worrisome?
You almost made me say shut up. Dapo, are you okay?
But it's worrisome.
Are you not in Nigeria?
In the same country, no. Compared to the same country.
Look,
But you are sounding like it's a normal.
Let me give you examples from the same country.
You are sounding like it's a normal. It should be a normal thing
let me give you
for a soldier to spend the money that is meant for the house.
You want to listen to examples?
Like it's normal.
You want to listen to examples
It's not
from
normal.
same countries? You want to listen to examples?
Yes, give me examples.
There are senior officers of the American Army, American Armed Services, senior officers who are under prosecution and in jail because they've used their strategic offices to abuse the system. It's a human being thing.
It's a human being thing.
Oh yes. Who told you human beings are perfect in some jurisdictions? The fear of the enforceable law
Exactly.
is what makes people
It's a human being thing. Maybe the climb now matters because when we're talking about the Halliburton case, the foreigners that were involved in that case, most of them are behind bars.
Because of the system.
That is why the foreigner coming to do business here, the first thing they will tell you as a facilitator is, look, we don't give bribe. We don't want to give. Once it gets to that, we can't do it. Not because they don't want to do business, because they know that where they are coming from, if they do that, you know, the law over there will catch up with them.
Can I quickly take our first caller?
Okay.
Akin is calling from Otta. Good morning, Akin. Or good afternoon.
Good morning, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Yes, sir. Oga Bola and Oga Lebo. Good afternoon, sir.
Afternoon.
I'd like to differ from what you are saying there. You're saying that the fight against corruption is somehow congested. Who has to be blamed for that?
No.
Then Buhari sent bills, lots of reasons, to strengthen this institution. And that is what you are saying there. So it is left for me and you, sir, to make sure the National Assembly passes this thing. So already he's doing what he's supposed to have done. Already there are bills now in front of the National Assembly. So let's fight and make sure these people pass this thing into law. It's not because of Buhari, but because of our unborn children. That is what we should be doing.
All right, then. Thank you so much, Akin. I'll leave them to react to that.
Wait, quickly, Dakbo. So we don't miss the point. You see, we have reduced it again now to Buhari.
And Buhari.
We have reduced it to Buhari. Here I am. I'm not talking about strengthening EFCC. Look at the Nigerian police.
He was talking about the laws.
We have the Nigerian police in the remotest of places. You don't have Buhari there. Let's start from the Nigerian police, the primary law enforcer that we know. Now you have strengthened EFCC and they are working. The same EFCC that didn't work before. Also, let's extend it to the smaller units so that it become part of this fight against corruption becomes our everyday life. We all become involved.
But what you said is the law that we should try and encourage the National Assembly to pass strong laws.
In a way, my take is different from the Boros's. I must be very honest with you. I want to shock Nigerians with some little facts of history today. This territory called Nigeria, we're speaking this language that we're speaking now, English, because some private sector investors got the license of the Majesty of England to come and explore business opportunities.
Royal Nigeria Company.
Yes.
Abi? America today, that humongous country called America, was because 4 corporations, some proprietors, and some religious organizations took licenses from the monarch to go and explore a new land. You know what? Until we democratize the fight against corruption, that an average lawyer, an average unemployed lawyer, an average unemployed forensic accountant, an average journalist who knows that if I chase this rabbit, the person will not only be nailed, but I will be recompensed. Until that comes into play, we are fooling ourselves. Nigerian police may be everywhere. And you know what? And that's the strategic difference between Foreign Corrupt Practices Act in America and here. And that is why some people are in jail in America on the Alibotin case, and people are not in jail here.
Niger, can I quickly take Niger's call from Niger State? Good afternoon. Hello, are you still there?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I really appreciate the program.
Thank you.
I want to congratulate Mr. Libros and Mr. Bolahan. It's a very good contribution you guys are making there. Frankly speaking, I think it's an eyesore when we see things that are happening, especially the revelations that are coming out. It's really mouth-boggling. And I want to agree with the two discussants in the studio that what we require is the institution. Because if I know that the punishment for stealing this is the punishment, it will not be a bad thing. But you discover that in this part of the crime, people are celebrated for stealing. If you discover that your neighbor has stolen so much, everybody will just look at it and say, I don't care. His government out is the institution that will take care of it.
Okay.
But if you all agree, and if the system, we can create that institution, take care of itself.
All right, then. Thank you very much for that call of yours. We need to go on a very short break. We'll be back soon.
Steps to prevent Lassa fever include keeping your house and environment clean, covering all foods and water properly, cooking all foods thoroughly, storing foodstuffs in rodent-proof containers, blocking all rats' hideouts. Suspect that rat has eaten any food, throw it away. Avoid contact with rat secretions and excretions. Avoid drying food in the open and along roadsides. Avoid contact with blood and bloody fluids while caring for sick persons infected by the disease. Symptoms of Lassa fever include fever, general weakness and malaise. After a few days, headache, sore throat, muscle pain, chest pain, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, cough and abdominal pain may follow. In severe cases, bleeding from the mouth, nose and ear. As soon as you suspect Lassa fever or you have persistent fever not responding to standard treatment, report to the nearest health facility.
Thank you for staying tuned. And just joining us, I have Comrade Ayodele Adewale. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, before you joined us, we were talking about the fight against corruption, but now we're going to reverse because the Supreme Court judgment eventually, the Supreme Court came up with the reasons why they reached that conclusion. You've read the judgment. You've read the reasons, right?
No, I've not read it, and
Okay.
I've not listened.
Part of the reasons. Let me just read this to you. It said that the Apex Court said that the card reader was not a sufficient replacement for manual accreditation and non-compliance with INEC manual guidelines. What they are saying, in short, is the APC did not put a good case towards the Supreme Court, even from the initials, from the tribunal. They'd never put on a good case.
Well, it's rather unfortunate that that has come and it has gone, and it will be a bit out of place if one tried to reduce the Supreme Court, quote and unquote, because it is regarded as the final bus stop. But regardless of that, I think we also must discuss about the happenings, and more so that it's being controlled by human beings that are very susceptible to making mistakes or committing errors. But I feel that it's putting the cart before the horse. The Supreme Court should have let the populace of the world or this country know about reasons before taking that decision. But a decision was taken and it threw everybody out of place and people started saying all manner of things. But I think they should also go a step forward by recognizing the fact that if not for the card reader, we wouldn't have had the kind of credible elections that we had the last time. I mean, it really took us away from a situation whereby people will be thumbprinting ballot papers in the corners of their bedrooms and all of that. And it served as a check to all of these things. But I think the Supreme Court should have commended INEC for using the card reader and should have simply said that a by-election or another election should take place where everybody will have to watch what happened. I mean, looking at the kind of violence that took place, and even the international community did say that those elections were not credible elections.
Okay, that's where they came to this conclusion again. They said Peter Side, that's the governorship candidate then, and APC failed to discharge the burden of proof placed on them, having listed misconduct, violence, disenfranchisement, and non-compliance with election guidelines, that the APC failed to give evidence for that, for what you just mentioned.
I don't think that is right. If they had failed ab initio, the tribunal would not have upheld the claims of the APC to have taken the decision they took, neither will the appeal court have followed suit. So I don't think so. I don't really think so. But again, it is the Supreme Court.
It is the Supreme Court. And what do you think, Golaba?
You see, up until the pronouncement day before yesterday on Taraba, I was one apologist for the justices of the Supreme Court on the basis that they were just being puritanical in their interpretation of the law. And what do I mean by puritanism in the interpretation of the law? You see, the role and responsibility of the court is not to make laws. The court is supposed to interpret the law. And any court, be it a lower court or a superior court, or indeed the apex court of the land in any country. Because I used to live in a jurisdiction where people were very particular and were very agitated about getting to see justices of their apex court trying to legislate through the back door. Because you can make pronouncements, courts can make pronouncements that will seem as though they have over-elasticated or over-elongated the interpretation of the law and thereby creating a new law against the substantive body of law. And one of the principles of law in any responsible jurisdiction, one of the principles of law is the principle of certainty. If something has been established either by statute or by precedent, I, Golaba, must be able to see it as an entrepreneur and look at the reality of the pronouncement or the reality of the statute and say, this is my plan for the next 5-10 years. So, Nigeria Supreme Court basically used the rulings in the PDP, in most of these PDP states, to say, you know what, we are not lawmakers. No Nigerian can deny the fact that the introduction of technology into our elections management or into our electoral system has really helped us to cleanse some of the maladies inherent in the system. But you know what? Is in so much as that is good. The Supreme Court told us in those cases that we cannot over-celebrate interpretation-wise the manual and the guidelines of INEC against the body of statute that is extant. So you know what? If you guys want to do anything about it, go and change it. And that will take me to the angle that Liberals and I were fighting in the earlier point you treated. You know what? If rightfully so, the governing party, like majority of those of us who are educated, I'm not learned. He's learned, and I don't think my brother is a lawyer too. No, I'm a scientist. like the body of those of us who are educated are appalled by the reality of the judgment, but you see, they have not done anything outside their constitutional role. If we are that appalled, the executive now, the government should submit an executive bill that will not only countenance the positives of the introduction of technology into our elections management, but also invite so many of the good positive recommendations of the Waste Commission and let's make them a body of law.
I have a
copy. The only reason why I said I was a bit disturbed was that I was thinking that while the Supreme Court was chasing that puritanical rabbit in the interpretation of law, I was thinking that in the case of Taraba, they will say, you know what, the extant statute tells us that if you came to become the candidate of the party through a manner that cannot be substantiated through real procedure, you should go. I was thinking that that puritanism will benefit that woman in Taraba. But I have seen that the Supreme Court in one instance claims to be, you know, we are very puritanical in the way we interpret statute. In another way, they kind of ducked.
Abraham, I'm sorry, I was looking for the right junction to interrupt Oba. Good afternoon. I lost that call. Sorry about that. What do you think about the judgment? Even the Supreme Court said, ruled that the tribunal, that's the initial tribunal, denied Wike and PDP the right to fair hearing by allowing a wrong panel to deliver ruling on an application they filed challenging the competence of the petition.
Basically, we need to understand that point. when a panel is not properly constituted, what happens at the upper court is for them to remit that case back to the court, to the lower court, for a properly constituted panel to revisit it. If you go further in the body of that judgment, the Supreme Court now said that because of time, they now had to look at the case on its merit. And because yesterday I looked at the headline, both headlines, we gave Wike judgment because he was denied fair hearing. No, the Supreme Court said they will not close their eyes to the fact that somebody here was denied fair hearing. But be that as it may, we decided to still go ahead. Ordinarily, we wouldn't have considered this judgment on its merit. We would have probably remitted it. But because of time, because remitting the judgment, the matter will mean you starting over. And statutorily, there is a time bound for deciding such cases. And so if you do that, you'll be shying away from responsibility, knowing fully well that, you know, that statute of limitation might catch up with that case. And so they went ahead to look at the case on its merits. And so the journalists should understand that. And then secondly, for me, I have some issues with some parts of the judgment, not all of them. I agree with some, I disagree with some. On the part of admissibility, that the judge dwells, you know, extensively on the document tendered by witness number 49. You know, I have some problems with that, but basically I'm waiting to read the entire gamut of the judgment. I've read snippets of it, but I need to read, I learned this about 100 and something pages, but I will need to read the entire judgment to actually understand the rationale for doing that. And then on the issue of card readers.
Can I interrupt you? Firstly, this calling from Bayelsa. Good afternoon.
Hello?
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Your contribution, please.
Yes, my contribution, in fact, is even a question. The first topic, yes, the first topic concerning the judiciary. I have a problem. Why is it that every panelist, every person that comes to discuss judiciary or anti-corruption issue, I've never talked about prison? Please, let those panelists talk about prison. The problem is just simple. Anybody that are apprehended by the prosecuting security agencies, please send them straight to prison. Just 1 day, 2 days, or 3 days. All our problems will be solved. I never see in a law where. Hello?
Yeah, Franklin, we're waiting for you.
I never see in a law where a judge or a magistrate sentencing a suspect, reminding him in a Obala house or a Standpoint house or Laboratory house.
I think the line is not too good, but I did get what you were saying. You should take like 2 days or a day for the judge to send somebody to the prison.
The Justice Act tells us that criminal prosecutions should take place in 90 days.
90 days.
Nigerians, you also, you cannot have an ignorant citizenry and have a prosperous society. Honestly, because sometimes when I listen to people who speak in this country and I give people who tend to want to give the impression that they follow this thing, you just want to hold your heads. We will keep being abused by our politicians because a larger percentage of, forget about it. In fact, in majority of societies I've lived in, you know, the so-called elite, the middle class, they are the ideas, the pool of ideas that society are on. And look at the Nigerian middle class, it's just about beer in the evening. Boys, beer, and womanizing. So there is a law that Goodluck Ebele Jonathan signed to place May last year that says that it changes the face of.
I interrupted you. Yeah, and so on the issue of card readers, and then the issue of proving irregularities in election, the Supreme Court in Obasanjo and Buhari's case did rule that for you to prove irregularities, you need to prove word by word, polling unit by polling unit. That's a tall order. It will take you more than 180 days to do. And so, and that precedent we had followed from, even it's part of our laws, that proving irregularities, you must have to prove specifics. That's the problem we have with, holding on to the form and leaving the substance of the law.
Okay.
And then the issue of card readers, where basically it's an elementary principle of law that where a regulation conflicts with the extant law will prevail. Just like where any other law conflicts with the constitution prevails. And so what it means is that the moment you are making regulation, you also need to look at the extant law and see if there will be conflict. So you quickly know how to make them parts of your laws. Like what happened in Amechi's case. What the National Assembly did was to quickly rise up to the occasion by introducing Section 141 to checkmate that judgment. And so it's for me, it's a work in progress. The moment it happens like this, we should now begin to look for how do we expand the scope of our electoral jurisprudence, which now brings me tie me to the other issues we were discussing before. The last caller talked about prosecution. Do you know how many people are in jail now who are awaiting trial?
Yes.
And then also, when you make a law, the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, it empowers the police. In fact, it gives wide powers. Oh, the police cannot do this, the police cannot do that. But how well are these police equipped to even carry out the duties as prescribed in this act? And when these things are happening, and we are not talking about that, we are fixated only at the center. The ones that affect us are the ones at the local. And so when it happens, you get to court, it is even difficult by virtue of your law to grant a conviction.
Let me take you to that, comrade. Why is it that, Okewale, the counsel to the present governor of Rivers State, Wike, said Peter side and even the APC should apologize for discountenancing the Supreme Court's judgment. And why is it that your party, you're from the APC, why is it that your party failed to present a very good case in that court?
Well, I don't see any reason for any apology. I don't see that. If they have any grounds, they should go to court. You understand? The Constitution recognizes freedom of expression, freedom of speech. And if anybody have an iota of doubt that justice is being subverted in one corner or the other, such person has the liberty to speak out.
And the person should have evidence also.
Such person has the liberty to speak out first, then show evidence. You understand? And these things are being investigated. Like I said, the controllers of the system are human. We've seen instances, look at what happened in Ghana, where we have, a journalist that went with a hidden camera and was able to substantiate and prove truly that the Ghanaian judicial system is being corrupt and their judges are being compromised. We cannot rule out that from our system. You understand? Investigation is still ongoing, and very soon we will get to the root of all of these matters. But please, sir, if they feel that Mr. Peter's side is out of place, they should go to court. And my party have always stood that or maintained that the rule of law must reign supreme. Yes, I do buy the saying of the learned man here, the lawyer, that we are moving on. But definitely, and we should also thank God for one thing, that President Buhari is on seat. And I can assure you that as we journey on, the card reader technology will be improved to such an extent that by the next election, a lot of data would have been gathered, biometric data would have been gathered. And perhaps, God willing, we can even vote from the corridors of our rooms.
Okay, wait, is it difficult for your party? Wait, let me just quickly put this to you. Is it difficult for your party, the APC, to accept defeat when they've really lost in an election?
You will only accept defeat when it is proven beyond doubt that you are defeated. But not even your own journalist was hiding under the chair when sporadic gunshots was happening. In Rivers State, we saw it on camera.
But why is it that you didn't bring those evidence to the court? Why is the Supreme Court saying you never brought all those evidence?
All those evidence were taken. I don't think they took our time to look at all of these things.
We need to set the record straight, basically. You don't accuse somebody and then begin to fish for evidence to substantiate your accusation. Once you have evidence, you lay accusations. Otherwise, you would have libeled the person.
That the Supreme Court was bribed. That the Supreme Court was bribed.
Bola, let me finish. Basically, and then also the issue of giving reasons thereafter. This is not the first time courts do it. It's allowed if you are time constrained And because of
public interest, that can throw the country into anarchy.
No.
I beg your pardon, guys.
That can throw the country into anarchy. If some people have mistakenly put in our constitution that you can make pronouncement before giving reason, it can throw the country into anarchy. You give reason, then you make pronouncement.
Good afternoon.
Hello?
Are you still there? Good afternoon.
Yes, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Okay.
You're calling from Rivers State?
Yes, I'm calling from Rivers.
So what's your own take about the judgment?
My say on this matter is that after the judgment, after the whole thing. Hello, are you hearing me?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, I think after the Supreme Court judgment, I was a bit confused. Why I said I was confused is that I think the electoral process is supposed to be, at least they have people who were foreseeing what was happening in Rivers State. There are foreigners who came and were foreseeing what was happening. With all that happened, with all the killing, the crises, everything, and at the end of the day, it went this way. And we said the judiciary is our last hope. What kind of hope are we talking of? I don't look at it as any hope any longer. I was shocked because I was part and parcel of it. I saw how everything went on, how people were prevented from voting, how they were. So what kind of? After president, I think I watched the tape of some of the army officers presented in respect of the violence. But at the end of the day, after all this, Supreme Court could sit and say the election was. I'm shocked. I'm just a bit confused. I don't even know what to say again.
Let me take it from there. Thank you very much for your call, Abdullahi. Is the Supreme Court saying since the APC did not provide evidence, that means violence did not happen in Rivers?
Basically, let's look at the way the court system works. I told you here I have problem with some aspects of the pronouncement, and I don't have problem with some aspects. And then also I did say that until I read the entire gamut of the judgment, you know, my submission here will be limited to what I have read. And then the way law works, it's not sentiment. It's not based on sentiment. You have a prosecutor, or you have a claimant's lawyer, you have a defense lawyer. The court will not close his eyes to the claim of the defense and listen to the claimant alone. In the same way, the court will not close its eyes to the claim of the claimant and listen to the defense alone. It's a two-way thing, and that is why the judge said it is on the basis of probability. You can sit down and say, oh, we saw this thing happen like this, but when it got to court, your lawyer was not able to articulate this blow by blow. And then the defense lawyer also, being a very smart defense lawyer, you know, looked out for ways to counter whatever account that you have presented. Mind you, you have INEC in the middle.
Yes.
INEC would do everything possible to say what we did was regular. And so this is what you are contending with.
Not in the case of
and then also, let me finish quickly.
Briefly, because we need to round up now.
And then also, you have a situation where when all of these are happening, you know, because of the time constraint, there's a tendency also for you to leave out so many things. And then the man that conducted the election, the onus of proving that these elections are regular, you know, is not on him. It is the man who is actually disputing that election. And to nail it all, the law requires you to prove, you know, in specifics.
So that's what Peter said and his party failed to do.
And that is where we have a problem.
You see, the way you sum up things, I don't know. There's a part of me that is, you see, you cannot just sit on a 1 hour program and just say the lawyers of the APC didn't present.
Exactly.
No. It's too cheap.
But wait, let me read something. The way you sum up things is even bothering me also. The Apex Court said Peter Saad and APC failed to discharge the burden of proof placed on them, having listed misconduct, violence, disenfranchisement. Did I say it otherwise?
Excuse me.
Is that not what they are saying?
Do you remember the fella Anikulapo Ransome Kuti case, where a judge sat and said what you are saying? And many years later, the judge came to apologize that he did say that.
That could be later.
Excuse me. The judge came back to apologize that he wronged Fela Anikulapo Kuti.
Because he's human.
Because somebody was stereotyping. Don't worry, we are going on. History and posterity will prove us right.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. I want to
you know where I have a problem with all of this. That's why I told you I look at these issues dispassionately. Let's also begin to look at issues the way they are. Not when it favors APC, it's victory for democracy, and when it goes against them, then somebody somewhere
nobody
you raise allegations already, and then you are not. I expected to see, yes, like we saw in Ghana, this was what transpired, and then you raise those allegations.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And Comrade Ayodele, thank you also so much. And this is much time will permit us on the show today. The conversation continues on the social media platform. Twitter at us at TVC Connect, hashtag Standpoint. Next week is another time on the program. I'll see you then and bye for now.